Thank you very much for coming to this session. And as Jan Goldin said this morning, ideas travel the world, and this is our aim today. This is to bring the idea that birds can help people to connect. And as everybody knows, this is the image we have of the Middle East. There were many peace initiatives. Unfortunately, they were not always very successful. And now I think people need to be inspired, to have new ideas, new perspective on this problem. And we were inspired by the long journey of Abraham when he went from Syria up to Egypt through the Jordan Valley. This is exactly what the birds are doing. Most of the birds from Asia and Europe, they cross the Middle East, the Jordan Valley, to go in Africa. And this is the essence of our project that we call Nature Knows No Boundaries. That is, birds don't need a visa or passport to go through the borders. And the interest of this project is because there is no link with religion, tradition, and culture. It started, this project, with this animal, the voles. They destroy the fields, agricultural fields. And what was the response of the farmers? This was chemical warfare. This is a huge problem because these chemicals, they kill the predators of the voles. Thus, this is the snake that bites its own tail. And we needed a solution. And this is what the Israelis started about 30 years ago. Farmers in a kibbutz, they put boxes to attract barn owls that kill the rodents. And as you can see at the back, there are the Jordanian hills, where the Jordanians started as well to put boxes for owls, and in Palestine. You can see this wonderful picture of a barn owl bringing a vole to the family. This makes the family very happy. And they all eat between 6,000, 8,000 voles a year, which is a huge amount. And you can find in fields a pair of barn owls with 10 chicks every 300 meters. This is quite amazing. This is quite a big success. And this is where we come with this idea that the barn owl's hawk, if you want, metamorphoses into a dove. And why it is so? Let's first look at this bird. This was a barn owl breeding in Israel. You can see the red dot in Israel. This is where there is the nest. But this owl was going in Palestine to hunt. It did not need a visa or passport to go to Palestine every day, or every night, in fact. And this is the same with the birds from Palestine that go in Israel or Jordan. This is a very strong inspiration. You can see a couple of years ago we had the first pair of a Jordanian and Israeli barn owl breeding together. This is what a rabbin asked after he knew this. And are the chicks Jewish or Muslim? And we don't know yet. We have to investigate a little bit. But the key thing is that this project brings people together. You can see here Palestinians holding a barn owl. And this barn owl, why they hold this barn owl? Because they make joint workshops to learn about their own experience in each community. And thus, every year there are 2 or 3 workshops bringing all together Jordanians, Palestinians, and Israeli together. And they build the boxes together, like here. There are Palestinians, Jordanians, and Israeli. And here, this is a fantastic picture taken in Amman, where we were eating all together. And after a few minutes, I was asking my friends, who is the Jordanian, who is the Palestinian, who is the Israeli? They are all together laughing, making jokes. And this is, I think, the very strong point of these projects. You see that people love each other, in fact, much more than what you can see in the news. And now, what is our aim all together, the 3 of us, is to bring the international community into this project, to show what we are doing and to promote this vision. And I'm coming from Switzerland. Why am I here? Why a professor is here? In fact, we could ask the question. Simply because at the very start, I'm working with barn owls. Doing my daily life as a scientist, I'm working with this barn owl. And I was very convinced by this project. And 1 year ago, we started to bring in front of the scene, and we went to the Geneva Peace Week all together to tell our story. A few months later, we went to Davos to explain again the same story. We went back to Shimon Peres to tell the success of this event in Davos. And now we are working very strongly starting with Switzerland, but going then in other countries. In Switzerland with the Jordanian and Israeli ambassador to try to get help from them. As Dominic said, we try to convince the armies to work together for peace. And here, this is a picture with the Chief of Staff of the Swiss Army in my hometown, by the way. And you can see the friendship between a general from Jordan, General Abu Rashid Mansour, and the general from Switzerland, the Chief of Staff, with my son, by the way, between two generals. I'm very proud. And we plan to have events in the international Geneva. The government already agreed that generals from Jordan and generals from Israel and representatives for the Palestinian Authority will come to Geneva to talk about peace with the neutral theme of nature conservation. And we are working as well with the Diplomatic Club of Geneva to have all diplomats around us. You can see on the picture the son of the former Israeli president, Yoel Herzog. And I will give the stage to my two colleagues to tell more about the project done in the field itself. Please, General Abu Rashid Mansour.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the organizer to invite me to be with this lovely gathering, and thank you for everybody who coming to listen to our story in the Middle East. This is the picture, shows you that when in my uniform as a general in the Jordan army, with late King Hussein also, we have an agreement, a peace agreement coming after decades war between the Jordanian military and the Israeli military. And here, this is the picture of the peace treaty signed on October 1994 in Arava Valley in Jordan, where is the border between Israel and Jordan. And when we reached to this point, we suffered a lot from both sides. I fought the Israelis 25 years. The Israeli, they caught me as a war prisoner. I injured also in civil war in Jordan. And I suffered a lot when I was in a theater war with our neighbors. But after 1994 peace agreement, we became neighbors, we became friends. I worked a lot until we reached this point. I was the head of the intelligence department, and I was also the head of the liaison office between Jordan and Israel. And some people, they ask now, generals became a birdsman? Yes. After suffering a lot, after we have a peace with the Israelis, we have to have a tool how we can implement the peace treaty between the Jordanians and the Israelis. As everybody knows, the government, they can have a nice peace agreement, but they cannot implement the agreement. The NGOs and the civil society, only people, they can implement the agreement between the neighbors. And that's what we did it. We established a NGO, they called it Amman Center for Peace and Development. And we had a lot of cross-border cooperation projects between the Jordanians and the Israelis. And one of our projects is the Barn Owl project. The idea to bring the farmers, teachers, students, university professors together, to sit together, to talk together, to eat together, to dance together, and also talking about the peace. We bring students from universities. We have more than 20 students from Jordan side who are participates in this project. The idea to build trust and confidence between the young people. Those people, they will be the leader of the future. If we starting from age 10 and 15 years, those people, after 10 years, they will be the leaders of the companies, the government association, the NGOs in the countries. And this is one of our also activity to go to Israel and to see the Barn Owl. By the way, Barn Owl is a bad luck in our tradition as a Muslim and Arabs. But the Israelis, they use it for controlling the pesticide and to decrease using the pesticide and the farm. But how we can convince the people, the Jordanian people, that the barn hours are good luck? It takes us a long time, and this is one of the activities. And if you look here to the slides, you can see the barn hours, male and 2 females. This is the only religious people in the Arab community, and in some of the other community, they can have 2 females. But this is unusual. And look, the 1 male and 2 females, we have 20 checks. Can you imagine? Only the religious people in our area, the Jew community and the Arab community, they can have this number of checks. And then we go to the imams and to the sheikh in our society, just to convince the people, the ordinary people, that the barn owl, it's a good luck, it's not a bad luck. And this is one of the brochures that produced by Yossi, Leshem, and myself. And as you see, it's in Arabic language. And if you go to schools along the border between Jordan and Israel, you can find this brochure in the schools and in the ordinary places. And look here, the Palestinian, Jordanian, Israelis. One of our colleagues from Israel, he hosts the Jordan Palestine, and he gave him a date. And this is one of the conference. You can see after the conference, 4 days conference in the Dead Sea, you can see the people who are happy about the productive conference, and they are dancing together, Israeli, Palestinian, Jordanian, German, and Switzerland. And now we have a new project between the armies. This is the PATS, they call it the PATS projects, using the bunkers. You see, this is the bunker. This is myself and one of the generals from the Israeli army. We use the kind of bats, and we're using the bunkers as a host of the bats, birds who are running along the border, and he cross the border. And as you know, the birds, they don't need a passport or visa to cross the border. They can cross easily and freely. And here, one of the pictures, can you imagine, this is the bunker, Israeli bunker used when we were in a status war with the Israelis. And now we are using as a house for educating the people from both sides. And this is the commanders of the Jordanian army who visited the other side of the border, the Israeli border, and they hosted him there, and they gave him an idea about the project. And this is one of our projects. Also, we called it Israeli Jordanian Retired Generals. We have this forum meeting 2 times a year, supporting by the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung in Germany. And most of the people who are participates in the peace talks in 1994, and now they are running also some projects to implementing between Jordan and Israel, and to encourage the people to have connection with our colleagues. Here also, my colleague talking about our meeting in Davos last year. And here you can see also the Jordanian, Israeli, Palestinian people who are working together. And what is the benefit of the project? The benefit of the project to bring people together, women, teachers, students, business people, religious, imams, and rabbis together to talk about the benefit and the fruitful of the peace treaty between Jordan and Israel. We have many also projects are implementing now between the student, teacher, universities, and also between the women. We have a program, they called it Women Empowerment. We brought women from Israel, from Jordan, sitting together, talking about how they can help each other. We have also sports activities between the young people in Jordan and Israel, and also we have a program. We called it Peace Education. Peace Education is very important. What is written in the curriculum in Jordan and Israel is not reflected the reality on the society. Those people who wrote those curriculum, they are fundamental from both sides. We have to change this curriculum to put something for encouraging people to have a peace together. Thank you for listening. Yossi.
Okay. Thank you, Yossi Vardi and Steffi, for inviting us here on the stage. I want to tell you now, in the time that we still have, on a machine which is much, much better than the sponsor of the entire DLD conference, flying much better than Lufthansa, Airbus, flying much better than El Al, Boeing, doing a much better job than BMW by flying about 120 kilometers per hour from Germany up to Cape Town with no refueling on the way. And this machine was invented 60 million years ago, and it does it still much better. More than that, no ways, no navigator. They do it much better with a brain of 1/4 gram. And this machine weighs not more than 7 grams. These are the migrating birds from Europe through the Middle East to Africa. So the story is, I wanted to talk about the cooperation, but as you know, Yossi Vardi, you know Israel has an inflation with Yossi, but only one Yossi Vardi. He told me, don't talk on cooperation, talk about these special machines, but I prepared the presentation of the cooperation, but I'll come to it. And the big story is that the German government in 1996 sponsored 1.3 million euro to our project. This is a satellite transmitter by a French satellite Argos. You attach it to the bird, and then you can follow the bird online. You can put it on your husband or on your wife. You sit on the computer, and you follow them all the day. We did it with 120 German storks, and the story was amazing. Because when we got the funds from the German government, I went to our Minister of Education, Professor Amnon Rubinstein at that time, and they matched the money of the Germans, and we developed a website so Israeli, Palestinian, Jordanian students can follow the birds. To make it a global story, we gave all these birds Jewish name, Muslim bird names, and Christian names. And one of these storks, her name was Princess, and we hear tomorrow people from Max Planck Institute in Radolfzell. Her name was Princess. She made the same route from a tree in Loburg near Berlin up to a tree in Cape Town. And she navigated for 13 years from one tree in Europe to Cape Town, 11,000 kilometers, with no mistakes. So the birds are doing everything much, much better than we are. So you can see here in the slide a Jordanian farmer holding a barn owl in Israel. As the general already said, the barn owl are a bad omen in the Middle East, but we changed the mind. It's now a good omen. You see that farmer is smiling together with the Israeli farmer. So the question is, how do we want to see the Middle East? How you see in the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, or what we are doing, joining forces in education, in science, and in conservation. Now, the big story of the Middle East, we are small countries in the center of 3 continents. From the political point of view, disaster. I don't have to tell you more. But talking on bird migration from our studies, we know now that 500 million birds fly over the Middle East twice a year. And they come year after year. 1 billion birds over a very limited airspace. More than that, some of the European population, like this eagle, lesser spotted eagle, the entire world population fly over Israel. Now, The Economist published a paper 7 years ago, and they found out there are now 100 million bird lovers all over the globe. And they are running to see places with plenty of birds, with big number of birds, and many species. And the Middle East is such a place. So all these eagles are nesting in Eastern Europe. So a birder from Switzerland or from UK or from Scandinavia, if he wants to see the eagles, he goes to Hungary or to East Germany, he can see 5 eagles in a day or 10 in a week, and he's happy. If you come to Israel from our studies, we know where they are landing. In one morning, you can see 7,000 to 10,000 eagles taking off. And if you are a bird lover, you start to sweat and shiver. And that's what we want, because then you put the dollar on coming to Israel or to the middle or to Jordan. So that's what we are doing. We're trying now to attract the bird birders to the Middle East. 600,000 storks, about 85% of the world population, fly over Israel. Pelicans, all the pelicans of Europe fly over Israel and Jordan and the Palestinian Authority. Why? Because the pelicans are using thermals, hot air, and they don't fly over the Mediterranean, because over the Mediterranean, no thermals. So we have the entire population of the European pelicans, 50,000 pelicans. But what is the problem? We destroyed in the Middle East all these wetlands. So this is a picture which was taken by our top photographer, Yossi in one of our fish ponds. From our studies, we know now that the pelicans have to eat once in 5 days. 5 days they don't need any food, but then in 5 days they need 1,200 grams of fish. So they land in a fish pond, and one dinner of 3,000 pelicans like here, and 2 tons are gone. So we have to solve this problem. And as you can see here, Turkey, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and Israel, they destroyed all their wetlands. So what's the vision of our work? You can see here, I like always to show this picture. You see President Bush, when they invaded Iraq, standing like a bird lover, but he forgot to remove the cover of the binocular. So when you are talking on politician, you have to be very careful. And when I got this picture of Bush standing like an idiot, I went to the States to give a set of lecture. I said, maybe it's not really polite to show the president like a stupid guy. Fortunate enough, after 2 years, our Minister of Defense was caught on the same pose, as you see here. So what is the vision? What are we willing to do? As I told you, the German, from the Ministry of Umwelt, of the Environment, gave us the funds to put these radio transmitters on 120 storks, and we started to follow the storks. Angela Merkel was at that time the Minister of Environment. She was a teacher to physics, so she got very excited that we succeeded to get so many schools to join forces. And here you will see now a summary of 200 white storks moving from Germany. All of them, each dot is one stork. If you can reduce a bit the light, you can see that all the German storks, the Western Germanies, are going through Gibraltar because they avoid to fly over the Mediterranean. But most of them fly over the Middle East, and they move along the Great Rift Valley up to Cape Town. So you see here studies of 20 years in 1 minute. They move up to Cape Town, and then they fly exactly the same way back. If you want to hear more about it tomorrow in the lecture of Martin Bikelski from Radolfzell. And you see they fly also all the way back. No navigator, no ways, nothing. They do it much better than we are doing. So I am studying bird migration for 45 years, and you are becoming humble. The small birds and the big birds are much, much better than we are in these projects. So this is an amazing stuff. We made a big website that you can penetrate and see everything online. And more than that, we made educational program for the Palestinian and the Israeli and the Jordanian kids. They can, for example, measure their handspan comparing to the raptors. Suddenly they understand how big they are. This year we made an online camera on a nest of a short-toed eagle, which feeds mainly on snakes, and a long-legged buzzard. 5 million hits in this website. People like to see stuff on site. So we trained the Palestinian and Jordanian how to ring the bird, to bend the bird. There is now a rigging station in Jericho, and in Israel we have several of them. So this is a Garden of Eden. But if you are talking on the Air Forces, it's a disaster. What we found out, the Israeli Air Force lost in 3 decades 11 aircraft, 75 collisions above 1 million each, and 3 pilots were killed. And they took it for granted. They said, if we are flying, you are colliding. So I was privileged to lead a big study. We were counting the migrating birds across Israel with volunteers. We started to use radar. You see the line east to the Mediterranean of 120 kilometers of migrating storks flying over Israel. We started to fly with a motorized glider every day from the Egyptian border till the Lebanese border for 280 days to measure the height of the birds. And we used unmanned aircraft. For the first time ever, the drone were used for a positive purpose, not for intelligence, to follow the birds. Because I did it for the Air Force, I got it free of charge. We made new flight regulation for the Air Force, and immediately, when they stopped to fly, where the birds are moving, the number of collisions dropped down by 76%, saving the Israeli Air Force $1.3 billion, and of course, life of pilots. So now we are in a big project with the EU, with about 30 countries, and the idea is to develop an algorithm so all the weather radars in Europe, 139, will be diverse to bird radars, and we can work on the entire continent, follow bird migration. But the last thing which the general already started to talk, the bodies who are making the biggest damage to the environment are the armies. And we convinced our chief of staff to make a new organization which is called Army for the Protection of Nature. Commander take responsibility on the environment. And the chief of staff personally, we got the funds by donors from abroad, and we have now 25 commanders who are taking responsibility. They have $100,000 each. For example, this is a training zone where by shooting and training, they made a fire of about 5,000 acres, and 12 nests of short-tailed eagle were fired by this fire. So what we did, we brought the entire board of the IDF, of the army, and you know, when you work with general, you have to work General Mansour, you have to think different. So we gave our chief of staff to release the biggest eagle. His deputy got a honey buzzard, which is smaller, and the second deputy, a black kite, which is even smaller, and all the generals released only kestrels. So they are happy that we understand the ranks in the army, and now all of them are committed. We brought generals from Jordan, Turkey, and the United States, and we made a meeting with our late President Shimon Peres. You know, I don't know if you know, Peres means in Hebrew, bearded vulture. Bearded vulture, or bad guy in German. So he's the only president who was called on a raptor in the world. So we brought him to the meeting of the generals. Unfortunately, the bearded vulture are extinct in Israel. So we made a poster for Mr. Peres. And you know, we have now feeding station. And here you can see a vulture from Jordan. We have feeding station for vulture. They can every morning to have some kosher food in Israel and go back to Jordan. So you see, it works. And the guys from Switzerland are bringing back to the Alps the bearded vulture. What we are going to do now together with the Swiss people, bring the bearded vulture back to the Middle East. My message together with our colleagues from Jordan and from Swiss, if you join forces, you work together, you can get the purpose. And as you can see here, if you join forces, I'm sure we can even fish on the highway. But we have to join forces. And I finish with a slide which I took in South Africa. Our public bar is presently not open because it is closed, manager. So the manager, please have a message that he knows what to say. Thank you for your patience. I'm sure this story of getting people together through the internet and through the conservation will win and thank you for Yossi. I'm sure Yossi, he's becoming a birder too.
No, I want just to apologize. Since Yossi flew all night yesterday, he's kind of without energy. I invited him.
Thank you very much.